Hi guys, what is going on, and welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. So as you can see from the thumbnail and the title of today's video, I am going to be bringing you through my transformation from when I started in the gym until now. So this week, I think it was about 2 or 3 days ago at this stage, on Instagram I shared a transformation picture and I got lots of comments and DMs and questions since then, so I thought it would be a good time to sit down and actually do an updated version of this video. I'm pretty sure when I started YouTube I did a mini fitness journey video, but since then I have gone through nearly a full contest prep and I just feel like I've added a lot to that journey since my last video, so I just thought I'd do an updated version for you and basically tell you about every stage I went through since I started lifting and since I started dieting, because it has definitely not been a steady linear process. There have been many ups and downs since I started in the gym, and the main thing I want from this video is for you to go away and basically not make the same mistakes that I did and just learn from what I did, because if I could go back now and just have the knowledge I have now, it would make my life a whole lot easier. Also guys, if you hear any squeaking or pattering or any strange sounds in the background, it's just Pablo. He is running up and down the hallway squeaking his toys and just having a great time, so I'm honestly not going to disturb him. I'm just going to leave him do his thing. So I was flicking through old photos earlier this morning when I was planning out this video, and I remembered that when I started my Instagram about 3 or 4 years ago at this stage, my page was actually hacked. I think I had around 20,000 followers or something at the time, and my account was hacked and I lost all my old content. So I'm going to try my best to find old photos and videos, but the fact that all my older content was wiped from my account isn't helpful. But look, I'm going to try my best. I'll try find old pictures from school and from when I basically started. So I started lifting at the age of around 16 to 17 years old, which is 4 years ago at this stage. That's when I started lifting properly. When I originally started in the gym, I went to do rehab work to strengthen my knee for basketball. I've always been a really sporty person. I was super active as a child and as a teenager. I always played sports. I was playing sports with my school teams and with teams outside of school, and I would have been training probably 5 or 6 nights of the week before I ever started in the gym. So I've always been sporty and active. I basically started in the gym to do rehab work for an injury I had on my knee, and I quickly realised that I really liked lifting weights, and both myself and Gary started lifting together. He had the influence of his older brother who was really big and muscly, and Gary really looked up to him at the time, and to be honest, once I started in the gym I just really enjoyed the results I was getting, even though I was only training legs for rehab work. I would say the first year of training for me between the age of 16 and 17 was honestly the most extreme thing I've ever done. We just went hell for leather in every single session, and it wasn't quality, it was just so much volume. I don't know how I ever recovered from my sessions, and both myself and Gary just overtrained to death. I don't even know how I'm still here to tell the tale. We would go in and do honestly 7 exercises on our rear delts or something crazy like that. It was just off the rails. We were really young. We had no knowledge on the sport. We just watched people on YouTube, massive bodybuilders like Ronnie Coleman and Mike Rashid. We watched people like Simeon Panda, Ulysses, Daniel and Bailey. These were the people we watched at the time. Massive, big, really impressive bodybuilders, and we just thought, well, they're training like this, so we should too. That was the first mistake I ever made. I completely went in with no knowledge. I looked at people that were at the top of the sport and just tried to copy what they did, but we quickly learned. After a few months we learned. I followed more channels on YouTube and I basically educated myself about the sport, thankfully, before running into any major issues. First thing you need to take from today's video is to go and educate yourself. Don't just rely on one person to tell you what to do. It's good to have a personal trainer and it's good to have a coach. It's actually probably the best thing you could do is to hire someone to coach you or hire a trainer to be there with you. But what's also really important is to educate yourself and don't just do what they say. Question it, learn about it, learn why you're doing things the way you do it, and don't just go in with no knowledge, because it'll only work against you in the long run. And it's good to know why you're doing things the way you are. Obviously I was really young at the time, 16 years old. I was still playing sports. I was probably in transition year in school, and I was used to really high intensity training from basketball and Gaelic football, so I just assumed that was how I trained in the gym too, but it's not. You need to learn what works for you and learn a safe way of training. So in early 2017, I was only training for a couple of months, maybe a year at this stage. I decided to do a photo shoot. So the photo shoot went really well. I hired coaches at the time and they were excellent coaches. They gave me a really good photo shoot prep, and I think it was 8 weeks in total I did my photo shoot prep for. I'm actually going to put some pictures pictures on the screen for you now of how that shoot went. So that was in April of 2017, so I think I would have been 18 in February of that year. I was so happy with how the photos turned out. As I said, my coaches at the time were absolutely amazing, and I learned a lot about myself and a lot about the sport and how to diet and how to train during that photo shoot prep. But if I'm honest, it was the couple of weeks after my photo shoot prep that I learned the most. So in the photo on the screen now, this was me, I believe 8 to 10 weeks after my photo shoot. So you can see how much weight I gained in that space of time. It was honestly about 10 kilos, I'd say, in 8 to 10 weeks. I didn't even notice at the time. I was like 18 years old. I was really unaware. I was like, okay, my job is done, my photo shoot is done, and now I can eat what I want and do what I want. And for some reason in the back of my head, I thought I was just going to stay in shape. And I remember taking this photo, and to a lot of people this photo is a girl with a really good body, and I don't hate my body at all in this photo, but what I did hate was my mindset and my relationship with myself and my relationship with food. That's what people don't see behind the pictures. Like, even when I posted this on Instagram the other day, a lot of people were like, I prefer the before photo, and I'm like, there's so much more to the picture than what you see. There's actually a person and thoughts and relationships behind that photo that really needed a lot of work. The photo shoot was definitely not a mistake. I absolutely loved my photo shoot and I loved the prep, but my biggest mistake was that I wasn't educated enough and I really didn't know what I was getting myself into at the time. So this kind of ties in with the first point that I made. You have to educate yourself and you have to know what you're getting into when you start dieting and when you start training. At the time, I didn't even know that I had a binge eating disorder. I was overeating so much every day. I was honestly eating to the point where I nearly felt sick because I felt like I deserved it because my photo shoot prep was done, and just my whole relationship with food was completely shattered. And I remember taking this photo and just realizing that I was just unhappy, both like internally and externally. Like, I was bloated all the time, my digestion was shit, my mental health wasn't great, and I just knew that something wasn't right and something had to be done and I needed to get my act together. So this was a huge turning point for me in my fitness journey as well. I realized that I had just let myself go. I wasn't enjoying training as much. I had literally the worst relationship with food. I was just binging and restricting and ended up at a weight that I just wasn't comfortable with. So basically at this point I went and educated myself. I learned all about tracking my macros, how much of each thing I should be eating, and I basically taught myself how to eat again and how to have a regular diet. This was a huge turning point for me as well, because I realized that I didn't have to just stick to a meal plan in order to get results. I could actually eat a really well balanced diet, including some fast food from time to time, or including sugary foods, and get into great shape. So if it wasn't for me actually educating myself and learning how to do things myself, and basically learning that you can eat anything once you eat the right amount of it, I really don't think I would have gotten half the results that I have today, because since then that's the approach I have taken. So I basically started tracking my macros again. I was back training. It took a good few weeks for me to stop the binging. It didn't just stop instantly, and it took a lot of patience and practice, but I got there eventually and I haven't ever binged since, which I'm really happy about, because at the time I actually felt like I could never get out of that habit. And it was at this point as well that my Instagram following really started growing, and I was posting fitness content and I had a lot of girls asking me about my routines or if I could give them routines, and I realized that I really wanted to get a qualification in this. I had a lot of girls messaging me and emailing me asking for plans and asking for guidance basically, so I would never want to give anyone plans or guidance without actually getting a qualification in it. So I was studying biochemistry in college, and that summer I decided to get an online qualification in nutrition and in personal training. So I wrote my ebooks, and that's how my business kind of started as well. Or if you didn't want to actually buy a course, you could just educate yourself online. So I recommend looking for ebooks. I actually have an ebook on the Fit Girl's Guide to Tracking Macros that I wrote 2 years ago, and it basically covers the basics of nutrition. It's actually a really good ebook. I think I was 20 when I wrote it, and this was when I was just after finishing my online nutrition course, and it covers basically everything to do with macros and how to track them. So that would be one option. Or else of course you could just go online and search things yourself, take your own notes and learn the basics, because they will stand to you. So now we're up to 2018 to 2019. So at this point I was really well educated on food and nutrition. I was training away, but I realized that I wasn't progressing as much as what I was when I first started lifting. I felt like I had hit a plateau and that I just wasn't gaining any more muscle. And the reason is because I was doing too much volume and the quality of the sets that I was doing just wasn't good enough. I wasn't pushing myself enough in the gym. No matter how much I tried to convince myself that I really wasn't working to my full potential, and this was another huge turning point for me. It's probably only in the last like 12 to 18 18 months that I really changed up my training volume, and I changed it from being high reps, high volume and loads of exercises to really peeling it back down. I only do 2 to 3 working sets per exercise now, and I'd maybe do like 6 to maximum 7 exercises per workout. So it sounds like nothing, but it genuinely is the most effective way to train. I would say in the last 12 to 18 months I have grown more muscle than I did in the previous 2 years, and that's simply down to the quality of my sessions and accepting the fact that less is more when it comes to training. I used to do like 7 or 8 exercises and do sometimes like 5 or 6 sets per exercise, which is actually just insane, because as a natural female you're never ever going to recover from that. If you're able to do that many sets, the quality of your sets isn't good enough. Now I do 2 to 3 sets per exercise, and when I tell you, sometimes I'm only 2 sets into my workout and I'm literally drenched in sweat, dying, can't move. And that's what has really worked for me. Peeling down my volume but really focusing on progressive overload and pushing myself in every workout. I will not leave the gym until I've beaten my numbers, either reps wise or weight wise, from the previous session. Your body will not grow more tissue unless you give it a reason to. It is definitely exhausting, and it's really tough mentally, especially when you're going into a workout and you're like, I don't know if I can actually beat these numbers, but it also makes it a lot more exciting and a lot more fun. Having your notepad or having your lifts in your notes and having something to beat in every session. So let's fast forward to this year. So this year a lot happened for me as well, because as you would know if you watch my YouTube videos, guys, I went into my first ever competition prep. Before I started my prep, I knew I was ready for it, because I obviously already learned from my previous photo shoot prep that you need to know what you're doing before you go into these things, and I was definitely well educated. I was driven, I had the time, I had the resources, and I was ready to go into a prep. So I started my prep. Obviously coronavirus came around then and everything was cut short, so I got to 6 weeks out and everything was cut off. I had already done like a really tough 10 weeks of dieting without a single cheat meal at this point. Like, I was ready and I was driven, and the virus hit so fast that I really wasn't mentally ready to come out of prep yet, and I feel like that really threw me. I never ever regretted doing prep because I loved the experience, and I cannot wait to start prep again next year, to be honest. But mentally, for the first few weeks after the shows were cancelled and when we went into lockdown and when the gyms closed, I was definitely struggling, and it was just to do with my body image. So this was the first real time I experienced any body image issues. I was obviously starting to gain weight again after prep, because that's what you do. Like, I was at a weight that just wasn't sustainable. I think I got down to like 116 pounds, which is extremely light for me. I've never hit that number before. I came out of prep and did my reverse diet really well, thankfully. I didn't binge, I didn't overeat. I did things quite steadily and gained weight at a steady and healthy pace. But my body image issues were so extreme at the time. Now even thinking back on it, guys, I'd nearly get emotional thinking about how I actually felt in myself. Of course, I'm out the other end of it now, guys. I'm really happy in myself now again. I'm back at the gym, I'm back in my routine, and I'm really enjoying myself again. But that was my first time realizing like how important the mental side of training and dieting really is. If you're not with it mentally, and if you can't enjoy the process, it really is just a waste of time, guys. I look back at photos of myself where I felt I was actually huge and I was shredded, like inside out, really lean, and I just couldn't see it at the time. It's something I struggled with but overcame, and I will go back stronger, and I can't wait to prep again. But this is just something that I really did want to mention in this video, because it was a huge part of my journey, and it will be a huge part of my journey going forward as well. And it is appreciating the mental side of dieting and training. If you are genuinely really unhappy inside and out, doing a diet and getting shredded will not make you happy. The only thing that will actually make you happy is firstly accepting yourself for who you are, loving yourself at all stages of your journey, and only doing it because you love yourself and not because you hate yourself. If you go on a diet because you hate yourself and you hate how you look, I can guarantee you, you will not be happy when you finish your diet plan. Those are things you need to do before you start your diet, except that maybe you are a little bit uncomfortable in your skin and you want to work on yourself for you because you love yourself, not because you hate how you look, because honestly, guys, it's a recipe for disaster. I don't encourage people to be lazy or to be like grossly overweight and unhealthy, but what I do encourage is for you to accept accept and love yourself at whatever size you are, and only want to improve because you love yourself and because you respect yourself. As I mentioned, guys, I wasn't ready to come out of prep yet. It was almost time to get on stage and everything was just kind of wiped away, so I feel like mentally I knew I was going to struggle either way, but it definitely made me appreciate the mental and the emotional side of dieting and how important it is. Looking a certain way will not make you happy, but what will make you happy is working on yourself because you love yourself and enjoying every step of the process. And that brings us to now, guys. As I mentioned, it was not a straight and steady road. I had many ups and downs along the way, and what it all really came down to was A, educating myself, not just listening to what people tell me to do, actually questioning it and learning about it myself, and B, appreciating the mental and emotional side of training and dieting, and realising that looking a certain way will never make you happy, but what will make you happy is having a good, healthy daily routine, working towards your goals, feeling progressive and enjoying the process. That's where you'll actually make the most progress, because how you feel mentally will reflect on your physique, and I will always stand by that. So that is basically it, guys. I think I covered everything to do with my little fitness journey so far. If you have any questions about anything, guys, just leave them in the comment section and I'll be active there later. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time.